Okay.
Yeah. If you need to cough, sneeze, burp, fart,
Just do it.
Just do it.
Let her rip.
It's
Try to fart into the mic.
No,
Yeah.
maybe not.
It's omnidirectional.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour. I'm Michael Moeller, joined by David Satterley.
Dad. No. Was that a Freudian thing?
In my old Kentucky home. Kentucky.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour. I am Michael Moeller, joined today by David Satterley, John Ronayne. We are at Brewgrass Homebrew Supply in Louisville, Kentucky, recording on a nice little Wednesday evening. And as always, if you're listening to us on Spotify, thank you. Go ahead and give us a quick little review if you want. If you like what you listen to, give us 5 stars, preferably. And if you're new to the YouTube channel, thank you for subscribing. We just ask that if you're watching this and you're not subscribed on YouTube, just go ahead and do that because that helps a lot. We are also joined tonight by special guest Scott Shreffler from Mile Wide Beer Company.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
What's
Welcome to the
happening?
show. Thanks for coming, Scott.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
You're officially the tallest guest on the show.
Todd Ferris might have something to say about that.
Has Todd Ferris been on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You might have an inch on
It's
Todd.
pretty close.
Yeah.
I do know that. It's pretty close.
He might have you horizontally, though.
Upside down. And headstand.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Scott, we're going to get to all of your, everything that you've been up to lately. But first, we're going to start the show off the same way like we always do. David, you brought us a beer tonight.
I did bring a beer. Derby is right around the corner.
Yep.
A very decadent and depraved tradition in the Louisville, Kentucky area. So I did bring a beer that I made with Cumberland Brewing, RIP, that's now occupied by Against the Grain Public House, Part 1. But this beer is called A Pie Called Derby. Did this in collaboration with JD Vasher, who was over at Cumberland right as they were closing out their long, tenuous history. This is a 1-of-1 batch. This is bottle number 2 that we bottle by hand. This is also under the old moniker of Kentucky Beer Network, so that'll date it just by that.
Nice.
So I believe this is from 2018. It is a barrel-aged imperial stout with chocolate and pecans. And you can't say the word Derby pie, so that's where the name came from.
Got it. Yeah, they get pretty touchy on their
They will
IP.
sue the shit out of you.
They are very litigious, probably more so than any other company in Louisville. So is this, how many bottles of this do you have left? Because
This might be the last one.
Wow.
But we only did 168, which when you do each one individually by hand, I think that was the equivalent of 2 15 packs of Sierra Nevada half bite that we went through while we were doing it.
Makes sense. That tracks.
So,
Was that 2019?
I think it was 18.
Okay.
It could have been 19. Untapped would know for certain.
Take a little bit.
Take a little scoosh. But yeah, there's no telling how this is holding up. We did put it in a rye barrel, if I recall.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
was it a rye barrel?
I believe so.
Oh, very nice.
See what
Big boozy nose. Chocolate, kind of light vanilla. Like I almost get even a little kind of like coconutty vibe coming off of it. But I think that might just be alcohol. You said there's nuts in here too, probably?
pecans.
Okay, that might be what I'm getting there.
It's a little nutty. It almost tastes better than when it came out.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Been a
JD made a lot of good beers over there when he was doing the thing at Cumberland. He had Kentucky Crunk. That was another one of his releases, and then he did a couple others. So that was a nice little project.
It was a good homage to Derby and to Cumberland. And,
I like that label too.
Yeah, artist by the name of August Northcutt did this, otherwise known as Buddy, in Louisville. And he absolutely killed this illustration of a Derby horse with a crown popping out of a Derby pie surrounded by roses. So
I love it.
Very
I think it was in my
cartoony.
dream last night. Like,
So Scott, before we get to Mile Wide, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this world of beer.
Oh man. Well, so I guess it all sort of started in like 2004 is when I kind of first got into beer. I was working in a wine bar and they had a sort of fledgling beer program that the owners didn't really want to deal with. And so they said, why don't you do it? And so that was the first time I ever like thought about like how to make a beer list in terms of like, make sure you have something that hits every style. And I got to try, I had reps bringing me samples and trying new stuff. And I lived down the street from Old Town and Zaz. And so me and my roommate would go there. We'd go to Old Town and get mixed 6-packs of things, go home and play video games and try a bunch of different beer.
Man, 2004, you're painting a pretty picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a simpler time.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was 2004. And then, just sort of fell in love with beer. And then in 2007, I got a job as the beer buyer at the Whole Foods here in Louisville.
Another Whole Foods guy.
Yeah. So I was newly married. I got married in January of 2007, started the job in January of 2007. And then in July of that year, I applied for the job with Shreffler. A buddy of mine who worked for Schlafly's wholesaler came up to me and said, "Hey, I think you'd be good for this. They're looking for a rep." And at that point, I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I'd thought about culinary school. I thought about a bunch of stuff. And I thought, well, this could be fun to do while I'm figuring out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And here we are. 16 years later.
You really stuck with it.
Yeah.
You committed.
I don't give up easily. So I started in July of 2007 with Schlafly. It's funny. Like at that point, I think Jeremy Markle was a rep for Kentucky Ale here. And we were the only reps that I can think of in the state of Kentucky.
Wow.
Like living in the state of Kentucky.
And what year would that have been around?
07, 08.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And
So
that's really when it was kind of starting to all kind of come to Louisville. Like,
yeah. I mean, I say that, and I mean, obviously there were people from BBC who were in town, things like that. But outside of Louisville, we were the only people. So, it was just a different time. You could, we built Schlafly with a dry hopped American pale ale and a Kolsch and an English style pale ale. And we sold a lot of it over the course of my time there. And obviously in the last 5 or 6 years, the craft beer scene has changed exponentially, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very, very low key. Like there wasn't a lot of expectation put on me. It was, basically if you can keep growing the business, then that's great. And you're on your island 4 hours away from the brewery. You're covering Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. Let us know if you need anything.
yeah.
And I spent better part of 9 years driving around all 3 states and preaching the good word of Schlafly. So one of our best accounts here in Louisville was River City Draft House. And so that's where I met Matt, my partner, and Patrick, who was a partner, is no longer with the brewery. And that's where the sort of idea of Mile Wide started. So that was April of 2014 when we sort of started we're opening a brewery.
Was it a very kind of deliberate, like intentional thing? Like I want to own my own like business. I like these guys for my partners, or was it like a drunken night where like you're like, hey, you know what we should do? We should open a brewery. Like, how did you guys kind of formulate? Yeah.
Well, so I definitely knew I wanted to own my own brewery. I had homebrewed with a friend. We had our ideas and 2 Dudes Brewing Company. And which is a terrible name, by the way. But yeah, it was something I knew I wanted to do. But it takes a lot of money to open a brewery, and I don't know anybody who has that money or has access to people with that money. But met up with those guys, and they did, and so it was a pretty deliberate. Like we met at Barrett Bar. And sat around for about 3 hours and just sort of talked about beer, talked about philosophy of beer, and then we're just kind of like, this is something we're gonna do. So we move forward for the next year and a half, probably, maybe I guess about a year, and then that's when we brought Kyle in.
I was gonna ask, where'd you guys find that like weird guy with the big beard?
So Kyle worked with me at Schlafly. He was a brewer for a few years, and then he worked in the quality lab at Schlafly as well. But he's from Henderson, and he went to U of L, and so he was looking for a way to get back to Louisville anyway, because he loves it here. And so this was just kind of the perfect opportunity for him to come back. And so he did. So he actually started before I did. He started in January of 2017. No, 16. Sorry, my years
Oh,
are all
dude.
messed up.
Yeah, I know.
January of 2016. I started in March of 2016. So
It's interesting. All like whenever you see kind of like a triumvirate form around like a new business. I always thought you guys had a really unique one in that, you know, there's you who's kind of like, I think you put on your business card before, kind of like hype man, kind of the marketing, sales, kind of PR, branding side. Kyle, who's just like smart and nerdy and funny and just likes get back there, get weird, get his hands dirty, and makes freaking great beer. He went to the Siebel Institute, I believe, didn't he?
Yep.
And then Matt, who like describes himself, I think, as like the pincher of the pennies or like the ducat master or whatever.
The master of ducats.
Keeps you guys out of collections, I think he said to me one time.
Yeah, he says that his job is to keep us paid and legal.
Paid and legal. Yeah, that's what he said before.
Yeah.
But were you guys conscious that you guys really kind of were bringing all of those different aspects of your skills together and then dividing them up that way? Or was it just kind of more how it came out?
I don't think it was never a conscious thing. It was just sort of, we knew what we needed. You know, Kyle first came on as the head brewer, and then when Patrick left, you know, Kyle became an owner, and we folded him into that. But yeah, it just sort of happened. Like Patrick sort of took on the tap room build out thing, how things were laid out, the point of sale system, all that stuff, and we just each sort of had our areas of expertise, and it really just works well because, you know, I know people who own breweries who do all of these things.
Right.
And I don't know how I don't know how you just don't go crazy. Like, I'm busy enough.
Well, have you met a lot of these people? You might have just
Yeah, I have. Yeah. But yeah, so like, you know, I'm busy enough that I can't even imagine having to add, like, even just doing our state taxes every month. Like,
yeah.
Matt handles that. If somebody was like, hey, can you do this? Like, nope, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I could learn, but I also, you know, it's nice to have the faith in my partner to take care of it and know that it's going to be taken care of properly. And
well, as soon as I got to know you guys, like, and just saw, you know, behind the scenes how it was all working, it was immediately clear to me that it was like a really good little triangle of all those things. Everybody kind of knows how to communicate with each other, and you guys make good products and get it in good places. And you haven't been put into debtor's prison yet, so I guess Matt's doing something right too.
Well, I think we all know our roles, but we all are willing to talk about, you know, if there's a money issue, if there's a brewing issue, whatever, if there's a marketing issue, we all have our say in it. But at the end of the day, the brewing stuff is Kyle, the money stuff is Matt, and it all goes through them, you know, and the sales and marketing is me, and it all goes through me. So it's nice to have those sort of, we can talk about it, we can collaborate, but at the end of the day, it is, you know, this is the final say.
And a lot of your all's beer makes it out to market, and you sell a lot to accounts and stuff, but you guys have a really great taproom experience too. When you were forming the business, how did you guys find that space? And maybe tell to folks listening a little bit of the story behind that property.
That space has history.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So our journey to get there was long. So we actually, the very first building we looked at that we were very close to signing a lease on was the building the Gravely's in. But then we sort of found out that the water main that was coming in was way too small, and it was draining out to Barrett and not Baxter. And so we were going to have to do all these things to replace the water main and the sewer, or the sewer line. And we just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
You know, our budget was very tight as it was. And so, I mean, we were literally a couple weeks away from signing a lease on that place, and it's terrible because that's such a cool spot. I mean, anybody who's been to Gravely, you know why we fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And you guys weren't the only brewery vying for that product or that property at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Third Term was looking at it.
Oh,
too.
really?
Oh, okay.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right. So after that, we looked at a place on Frankfurt Avenue across the street from Irish Rover. That we got kind of close on, but there was some logistical issues that we just couldn't quite overcome. We looked at a place over in Germantown that it was a tire warehouse, like kind of back on, it's not Charles, it's whatever the street closest to Gossett, like the next street over from Goss.
Yeah.
Samuel?
Yeah.
It's on Samuel, like by the train tracks.
Okay.
And whoever was there was going to move into a new location. And so we were going to take over their lease, and it was a massive space. And then at the last minute, they were like, no, we're not going to find any space. And so we're like, all right, so we're back to the drawing board.
Thank you very much.
Because, you know, what we were looking for is zoning is really weird. So there's, you know, you can do a C1, which means you can sell as much as you want, but you're restricted by how much you can produce. There's an M1, which means you can produce however much you want, but you're limited by what you can sell. And then there's Easy 1.
Easy 1.
Easy 1 is what we were looking for, because that is do whatever you want. And usually it's sort of rundown buildings that nobody really wants, and they're trying to get people into them. So finding an Easy 1 that was in the city, near residential neighborhoods and you know, near all the places we wanted to be near was pretty difficult. But we finally found out the spot where we landed. And so, you know, we're on Barrett Avenue, right near the corner of Barrett and Broadway. The building used to be a Pillsbury plant. So there's the big silos, and they used to go from grain in the silos to finished frozen biscuits in that building. So the room that the brewery itself is in was the freezer. So all the walls are lined with like 6 inches of cork. So it holds temperature really nice. It's funny when we do collaborations and we get brewers in from other breweries that don't have air conditioned or climate controlled breweries, and it's the middle of summer, and they're like, how is it 70 degrees in here and not 95? And so it, you know, it's something, it's really nice.
Thanks, Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, exactly.
Woohoo.
So, you know, you open up the doors to grain out, and it gets awful warm, but it cools down real nice.
So tell us a little bit about Mile Wide, the brand, though. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
I mean, so the name itself is a reference to the Ohio River. The widest point of the Ohio River is just west of downtown Louisville, and it's a mile wide. But I think, you know, early on we thought of it as sort of expansive and sort of not bound in by anything. And so that's sort of, we've really taken that to heart, and we brew so many different styles of beer. I mean, we just switched distributors last year, and as part of the presentation, I was going through and figuring out like just sort of a breakdown of what we brew. And, you know, we brewed in 20 what was it last year? What was last year? 2022?
It's like 2012, I think.
Yeah. 2022. We brewed almost 60 different beers.
Wow.
And that's crazy. It's really crazy to manage on the sales and marketing side. It was, I'm sure it was a shock for our new distributor. Like, you can tell them like, hey, every week we're going to have a new brand coming to you. And it's one thing to say that, another thing to actually manage it. But that's what people want. That's what, you know, and that's,
I always love seeing your all's like seasonal stuff come out on the shelves. Like every time I see your all's like Oktoberfest come out, I'm like, ooh, I want that. And like every time I see your all's like, you know, you guys always are really good about rotating it out.
And I think we try and strike that delicate balance between sort of classic styles and the new, sort of off the wall stuff. You know, like we just released, or we're releasing Cathedral, our Kolsch tomorrow. But 2 weeks ago we released a milkshake IPA, you know, and we've got our slushy sour series called Loud Noises, but we also have Schnitzelbank, which is our Hefeweizen, you know, so we try and find that balance, between the two. And so the stuff that's crazy is never over the top crazy. But it's, you know, it fits us.
And it also piques the interest of the consumer.
Absolutely.
That's going out looking for that style.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so much of the business now is, and you see it with people opening multiple locations. It's so much like getting people to buy your beer over your own bar. And to do that, you know, having that rotation of, you can come in this week and come back in 3 weeks, and there's going to be a bunch of new beer that you've never had. You have to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Well, and it wasn't always that way.
No.
Right. So you all struck really hot the iron into the New England fad. As it was unfolding, and it, for at least for Kentucky, I mean, I guess
it was still
like early 17.
Yeah. It was, so, I mean, we opened in December of 16. And we released the first batch of Tessie a week after we opened. So like mid-December of 2016. But it was that year that like the Veil opened. Treehouse was just starting to like really, you know, gain traction, Trillium. And, you know, that was one of those things where, you know, it all kind of started with our IPAs, where we were like, we could brew one IPA, but why don't we just brew a bunch of IPAs? Because we all love them, and there's all sorts of different styles.
Tessie was a banger too, and Noma. I really like. I remember the first 3 or 4 you guys put out. Like you guys, I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but did anybody make a New England IPA before you guys did in Louisville? I'm sure.
Nobody in Kentucky did.
Yeah, I think you guys were probably the first.
We were definitely the first in Louisville, definitely the first in Kentucky.
And they were bangers. Like, they were good. You're trying Treehouse stuff. I remember, like, Bearded Iris was just coming into our market around then, it seemed like. And then you're like, oh, shit, like, this stuff's being made in Louisville here now, too, which is, like, it just made us feel like a cool beer city.
Big kids.
yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, we have cool stuff, too, guys. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and, it's a style that I love, specifically the Northeast style IPA. I mean, I love West Coast IPAs. I love all of them, but that's a style that, from the get-go, I was like, I really want to make sure that we nail this. And you all probably know Terry Cook. He was integral in that whole process, because he would bring us samples of Trillium and Treehouse, and we'd let him taste all our batches, like all our pilot batches. And, it was really nice to kind of have that like consumer input on how things were going. So when Tessie came out and he was super excited and happy about it, I was like, well, all right. That's all I care about.
I love that you guys did. You did like, because the ones I remember when you were first getting started was Tessie, Noma, and then like Tuck Rule maybe were like
those were the first
ones.
Yeah, Tessie was the first, Tuck Rule was the second, and then Noma was the third.
Okay, yeah, it was cool too, just because you weren't just doing like a New England IPA. It was fun to see the experimentation within the kind of newer style of using different hops, like playing around with different adjuncts and stuff. So I enjoyed being on part of that journey with you guys, experimenting, and I think the whole community did too.
Well, and I think what's fun too is to kind of look back and see how far those beers have come, because like every brewery, every time you're brewing them, there's little tweaks like can we continue to make it better, and so there was a joke among some people like batch 1 of Tessie was better. No matter what batch you put out, batch 1 was always better.
That's true.
So in 2020, when we couldn't do hops on the hill, we were like, all right, well, we're going to rebrew batch 1 of like the recipe from batch 1 of Tessie. And we even did the label to look like the Crowler and things like that.
I love it.
It's just a little joke, but
the first time you try a new style like that, it's always like, you're always going to compare it to you're always going to compare it to your first.
Well, yeah, I assume that most of those comments are tongue in cheek at this point,
You
Probably.
You don't fuck with a good thing. Just let it roll. But,
well, people, hoppy beers like that are hard to negotiate because people take for granted that you're going to be able to get like 30 pounds of Citra, or you're be able to find like these hops that you tried that were experimental and now they're different. Like you kind of sometimes have to work with what you got, and like,
Yeah. Well, and that's the art of brewing to me, is that, with wine, and I love wine. Like I worked at a wine bar. I know enough to be dangerous about wine, but wine every year is different. That's why they vintage it, so that, like this isn't going to taste like last year's because it's an agricultural product. Well, you know what else is an agricultural product? Malt and hops. And they are going to show the changes if it's a dry season, if it's a wet season, if it's a hot season, a cold season. It's going to show all those changes, but the beer has to stay the same.
Yeah.
And that can be really tough when we're brewing, especially beers that are single hop beers, where there's those fluctuations in the hop itself. Cause we're not going to Australia to pick our lot of Galaxy. We're buying Galaxy. So we don't know which field it came from every year. Like we're getting the best we can, but there is going to be fluctuation.
That sucks. You should do better.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I know.
Why don't you go to Australia?
Go down there and fight with a kangaroo, like get attacked by a giant spider.
Well, that's the only way you can get them. You have to fight a kangaroo.
Yeah, that's part of the contract. That's why they're called hops.
Yeah.
And these cans are $30 a piece because we had to go there and do that.
Exactly.
And like you should pay for the artisanal value. Also, we were on holiday.
We had to eat at that 5-star restaurant. We had to get the
Market
massage.
research.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about your beers for a little bit now, and for every guest we have them do a couple different show and tell options, one beverage related and then something a little bit more personal. Do you have a beverage for us today?
So I did something beverage related, but not a beverage.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good enough.
All right. So a couple of years ago,
Excellent glassware.
somebody gave this to me. So this is a Pizza Hut. Back in the 80s, they had They did Star Wars. They did the
Yeah.
Muppets. And I had this glass when I was a kid. I lost it over however many years. And probably 5 years ago, somebody else gave me this glass. And it's my most treasured
That's
possession.
awesome.
Because E.T. was the first movie, I think the first movie I ever saw in a theater. It's the first movie I remember seeing because I was
That's a
crying
good
and my
one, dude.
mom had to carry me out. But also like
You
just
were
the
14.
Just got my
Yes.
driver's license.
it was a sight to see, let me tell you. But yeah, so like I love this, and now like if I drink beer out of it, I get extra special joy. from
Hell
it.
yeah.
So
People, nothing to knock on Pizza Hut, but people don't know how fucking amazing Pizza Hut was back in the day.
well, so beginning of COVID, there was that like crispy cheesy cast iron pizza recipe that was going around.
Yeah,
That was Pizza Hut pan pizza.
yeah.
They made them in cast iron pans. Like
They would have like buffets and shit too. You could
it
go
was-
in there and
it
like,
was so good.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the Book It Club. Come on.
yeah.
You know,
Come on.
I read a book and get a personal pan pizza.
Did it contribute to the American obesity epidemic? We're not going to talk about
I
that.
don't
Did they
know.
have amazing fucking pizza? Yes, it was
Yep.
great.
We already
Yeah.
had a cheese episode.
Yeah,
We don't need to do that anymore. We have two.
I do say that it speaks volumes to the merch of the past.
Yeah.
Of like the one-off like collectible type deal. Like I think of legacy brands like Fall City and Fairs, and like I told you earlier, I cleaned out all my glassware, but I didn't throw away any of the mile wide glasses because one I use for literally a water cup every day, and the others are all in different shapes and sizes. And you know,
Sure.
these are great. I like them and they're unique. And the idea that like Pizza Hut did a ET glass, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And
Yeah.
now it's like, hey, we're releasing this beer. What can we do with like coasters? Would be cool.
It's so like
Coasters.
80s too. Like it's just to me definitive of like that whole time in American history. It was like a big blockbuster movie would come out. Of course, you like merchandise it through Pizza Hut or McDonald's or like breakfast cereal or like whatever.
There was an ET breakfast cereal.
Was there really?
There
Oh,
definitely
shit.
was. Yeah.
Phone
Yeah.
home. I'm trying to get a good pun going here, but yeah, like
I don't remember what it was shaped like, but there definitely was an ET.
his
It
like
was,
little
you know,
finger
It's just a
coming out.
finger with a light.
some sort of
Oh,
corn
yeah.
cereal with sugar on the outside, right? That's what they all were. But
It probably had Reese's Pieces in it. That's what I remember about ET. He loved Reese's Pieces.
he did.
So can you explain why
biggest
you
mistake-
haven't done an ET beer yet? Then?
Hmm.
I don't know.
You might be
I
onto something.
can't. I don't have a good answer for
Especially with all these like UFO UAP things. We maybe that could be a legend collab coming up in the future. Extraterrestrial beer. we did Centauri a while back. That was space themed, so that could have been.
that. We
an
just
ET tie-in.
rebrewed that not that long
Yeah,
ago.
it was a good recipe.
Yeah, actually,
great
it's funny. I think that came out in like January, February, and so every year since then, my Facebook memories pop that video
Yeah.
up, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will
yeah.
watch it every time
Same
it comes
here,
up.
same
'cause
here.
It's always hilarious.
Yeah. That was great. If you guys
throw-
want to find that, Boy Meets Wort YouTube channel, we did a spoof video of The Office, the brewery, where Scott Shreffler was plagued by a replacement for Kyle, who came in to help them brew a new batch of beer. Shout out to Ricky Burdett. But I'll leave the mystery for you guys to go watch. Yeah,
Sven.
but your performance was excellent.
Thank you.
Courtney watched it and she's like, why is he actually good? Like she thought your acting was very good.
Well, I was literally just being myself. Like that's
So the Jim Halpert basically of
Basically,
like the,
yeah.
I love it.
And the sound of the paper ripping off of the Underberg tells us it's
Oh,
time.
I had a good segue because you were talking about all these brands that had great merch. And like, you know who has really good merch? Freaking Underberg, man.
That's great. Okay, so now it's time for a Berg break because John interrupted David.
Sorry.
That's how you know.
And since Sean interrupted David, now we have to take a Berg break.
Cheers, y'all.
Thanks, Underberg.
we have so many of those like the truck trailers at the tap room because we've gotten the apron, but we only got one. So then it's like, well, who gets to wear it?
Yeah.
You know, so we just end up getting the wagons.
Yeah, there's a plethora of like prizes that you can redeem these caps for, and every single time Mawad has decided to do the trailer to the truck, so not just big one big long.
Yeah.
It's like a choo-choo train. of
Yeah.
Underberg
At some
trucks.
point, it's probably going to just stretch around the whole bar.
Yeah. Honestly, that'd be really
You guys could do a cool little, you guys have such a big like open space, a little train.
I
Drives
believe
around.
the last time I saw the numbers, Mile Wide had the second most amount of Underberg sales in the city, probably state then too.
Wonder.
Knock
That's-
bars.
that's awesome.
Knock bars one.
Yeah, Knock Bar.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Underberg, made in Germany, good digestif, made with bitters. It's just good after you've had a couple beers or a big meal. You get some of that that Pizza Hut delicious pizza, and you drink some Centauri, and you just need a little break. We're actually. Pizza Hut's great, or you could just go to Max at Mile Wide and get some pizza there.
I mean,
enjoy a beer at Mile Wide.
we
and
just
then
created a
drive
great
down the road.
event night. We do like a throwback ET themed beer. We get them to do like a Pizza Hut inspired pizza. I think we're on it, and we play ET. Like I think we're onto something here.
We could do a Reese's peanut butter, a Reese's Pieces dessert pizza.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's solid.
I only want to do ET if you all like set up the tap room like the end of the movie where everything's medically blasted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, well, that's the part where you like leave the theater crying. Like that was terrifying when the scientists are coming to get ET, and like I remember being scared of that when I was a kid. It was intense, dude.
We just watched it not that long ago. My wife and I did, and she's like, I don't want to watch it because I'm gonna be a mess. I'm like, you're not gonna be a mess. And comes around, and she is just
Fucking phone
just
home
all
gets you.
snot and red faced and box of Kleenexes and just it's
I think
I'm dead inside now at 45, but otherwise I would be crying too.
Yeah.
So
in the promo, we'll have a line of these beers that we make, and David Satterley will just follow them and just drink them as like we try to lure him into the whatever. Yeah.
and then we dress him up like a lady. With the,
yeah. Oh, Drew Barrymore shout out. That was a good
This
thing.
is a short joke. I got it.
No, that was not it. It was just be funny.
That's not a short joke.
It's not it at all.
So yeah, to put an end cap on that, keep your caps. Scott, what is next for our show and tell?
So I couldn't decide. So I brought two different things that are sort of related. So growing up, my parents really encouraged my sister and I to read anything and everything. And the first author that I ever fell in love with was Stephen King.
Oh yeah.
So I have a copy of Night Shift, which is the first Stephen King book that I ever truly loved, which is a collection of short stories. So like Children of the Corn is in here.
Okay.
The
cool.
Lawnmower Man, but not the movie Lawnmower Man. The Lawnmower Man is about a guy who actually like crawls on the ground and eats grass to cut the grass.
Can I borrow that?
Yeah. And as you can see, it's a bit dog-eared. I've literally had this since I was a child. So no, you can't. Well, I mean, you can borrow it. So then
We'll buy you the Kindle.
the other thing that I brought was maybe my favorite experience reading. When Stephen King wrote The Green Mile, when they first released it, they released it in serials. So there were 6 parts. I actually don't have the 6th one with me, but like once a month they would release a new,
cool.
150 pages of the story. And my mom was traveling for work, and she would bring me these, and I would like tear through them in a matter of an hour. And it was just one of the coolest like reading experience I've ever had. And I don't. Like to this day, I wish more people would do things like this because I think it would encourage people to read.
That's genius. Yeah. It's like these are so small. They're like literally a quarter of an inch thick and incredibly digestible. And then
this is 92 pages. The part 1 is 92 pages.
It's a night. Yeah. That's so easy.
That's fun.
So it was one of the most enjoyable reading experiences of my life. And so I brought that.
And a great marketing idea, honestly. Like, so you're selling 6 books for the price of one.
Yeah, you're not selling this one for 1/6 the price of a book. You're selling it for $3.
Knowing Stephen King, I have a feeling the publisher was like, so is that book done? He's like, no. Here's this chapter. Come back in 2 weeks.
I will say when I was trying to when I was thinking about a book, I was like, all right, well, which Stephen King am I bringing? Because there's, reading Misery for the first time is like the only time I've ever been truly terrified by a book.
Yeah.
And so there's.
It's been a long time since I read those, but they're really good. I remember The Stand. It took me forever to read it, but I was like, this is nuts. It's like talking about like Satan's coming back, and like there's this like lady who's like God or something. I can't remember the details. It's been so long.
I saw that on Twitter and know it.
It's great. Yeah. Wait, what are you talking about?
Nothing.
It's a QAnon conspiracy.
So Scott.
Oh shit. Pizzagate?
So Scott, you just mentioned your love for ET and you just mentioned your love for reading. But David has a game that will kind of tie that in. A little bit.
Not really a game, but Scott, we do appreciate you coming on, and we think you deserve a lot of credit. So, inspired by a mile-wide beer named a major award, we're going to give you a major award.
Oh.
But the award's not for you.
Oh.
But it is in your likeness.
Oh,
Welcome everyone to the first annual Scotties.
okay. Okay.
What are the Scotties, you ask?
Yes. What are the Scotties?
What are the Scotties? So we're going to go through a list of movies that you most likely have seen,
Okay.
and you're going to give it a Scotty or a naughty.
Oh, okay.
And then once you decide,
We do follow you on social media, and we know that you're kind of a movie buff, and you have opinions about movies, and you're not afraid to share them.
I do have opinions.
Yeah.
Yes. I
So-
have opinions about a lot of things. If you
Yeah,
got time, I can share more of them. But
So we've got a list of Scotties here,
okay.
potential Scotties nominees that you can give. And if
Is there going to be like a golden Scotty for the best of these?
Sure. Yeah.
At the end?
Let's do
Absolutely.
that.
We can do it.
I-
Or
actually-
you could even nominate your own.
Is somebody
nominate your own?
is somebody going to keep track? Oh,
Yeah, we'll keep track.
It's not. Yeah, keep track of what gets one, and then I'll pick from those. Okay.
Well, we're going to tell you because we also looked up the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So if you give a Scotty to Naughty, we'll let you know.
Oh, it's going to happen. I can almost guarantee it. All right.
Take it away.
I'm up for it.
Jonathan.
Okay, so our first nominee for Scotty or Naughty. Let us know what you think. And if you guys have opinions on these, let us know in the comments. Meet the Parents from 2002. Robert De Niro,
Ben Stiller.
Ben
Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson.
Owen
Really-
Wilson.
Really funny Owen Wilson part in that.
Vince Vaughn was in that?
Was he?
No.
No.
Mm-mm. You know, in spite of the sequels, I'm going to give it a Scotty.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid comedy. It's the first time we ever really saw Robert De Niro doing comedy, and he kind of crushed it. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
My go-to quote is, I have nipples, Greg. Can
Mhm.
you milk
Can
me?
you milk me?
Yep.
I will bring you down. I will bring you down to China.
You know, there was a lot of like cultural moments, like the whole idea of the Fockers. Like, I feel like that was a meme that caught on for a while. Like,
Yeah.
Greg Fokker, whatever. Good movie. I agree. Our second contender for Scotty or Naughty, Paul Blart, Mall Cop, 2009.
No, absolutely not. I will say around the same time, there is the most depraved version of Paul Blart called Observe and Report that came out with Seth Rogen.
Okay.
If you hate Paul Blart, but also have a twisted sense of humor, you should check out Observe and Report because it's actually it's fucked up.
Hell
but
yeah.
It's fun.
34% of the internet said that Paul Blart should have got a Scotty.
Yeah.
For the record.
But only 34%.
Only 34%.
And the masses did agree with you on Meet the Parents, 84% positive.
yeah.
Our third contestant, released in
Nominee.
2019, nominee, Knives Out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a
that's
Scotty.
a Scotty. That's an easy one.
Well, the audience agrees at 97%. So
I would actually say that the second one is even better.
I haven't seen it. I've been saving it for like a movie night. But I heard it's really good too. Yeah.
As a youngin, the murder mystery movie
Mhm.
thing really translated super well.
And Daniel Craig,
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he was
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
It's, we watched that before the new one came out, and it's even though you know who did it, you know everything.
that was almost made it better. Like, it's kind of like, I love the way they did that.
It's like we during the pandemic we started watching the old Columbos.
oh yeah,
and,
Peter
like-
Falk, is that?
Yeah, and like you knew who killed the person.
yeah,
It was just like the whole show was him figuring it out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It always made it a little better.
100% agree.
Yeah.
100% agree. Our next nominee for Scotty or Naughty is not a movie I'm familiar with. Troll 2, released in 1990.
Big time Scotty.
That's a
a
Scotty.
big time Scotty. Yeah.
All right.
So
So since
that's-
I'm not
that-
familiar, give me the outline
So
of
it's
Troll
it's
2.
it is a sequel to Troll that's not at all a sequel.
Okay.
This guy, in fact, there are not trolls in the movie. They are goblins. And it was written by an Italian guy who doesn't speak English. It's one of those, kind of cult classic midnight movies. There's a really great documentary called The Best Worst Movie about it. Like one of the guys who's a star of it goes back and like reunites with his cast members and stuff. And it's a lot of fun. It's not good, but
it's good.
It's
I
fun.
get it. Okay. Well, I know what
Yeah.
I'm watching tonight.
Yeah.
Well, 5% of the got
Of
a
the internet.
huge downgrade. But the world is wrong. The
Well,
world
if this is Rotten
wrong.
Tomatoes, I want to see what the audience rating is, because I would think that's significantly higher.
I think you're probably right on
Yeah.
that one. Moving away from the
Hold on,
genre.
There's a fantastic line in Troll 2.
All right.
So it's this parents and their two kids, they go to like this farmhouse for like a vacation, and like the little son is acting up, and the dad's like taking him into the room to like for timeout. And he like spanks him, and my wife and I say this all the time. He says, "You won't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it."
Yeah, he's honoring the Greek ideal of Zendaya. Like I'm all about it. That's where the goblins come and get you.
Yeah.
So moving away from the troll goblin genre.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They went on vacation in Nilbog, which is goblin backwards.
Oh,
that's so clever.
Nilbog.
I know. Yeah.
Why didn't they call it goblin?
That is the last time I'll interrupt you with something about Troll 2.
No. Hey, the more Troll 2 we inject into this podcast, the better we're doing.
See, you missed a beat though. You could have been said, "Well, John, one more thing."
I could have turned around and
little Columbo reference for you
there
Gen
you go.
Zers.
get a little cigar and yeah.
I'm so lost.
Well, now that we've adequately discussed the movie Troll 2,
Yes.
a more dramatic nominee, My Left Foot, starring Daniel Day-Lewis from 1989.
You know, I've never seen it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. He's great. He's
Yeah.
always great. I'm sure it's a
Sure, it's
Scotty.
good.
Yeah.
He paints with his feet. He writes with his feet.
Can I give it a Scotty if I haven't seen it?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it's a.
We're
It's
just
a
gonna.
pass.
Can we just eliminate it from?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to not
Sure.
give it one.
Well, the masses disagree with you. They give it 98%. They love it. They
That's
love
just
it.
because they were told they were supposed to like it.
Yeah. Was there ever a Pizza Hut glass about My Left Foot?
I doubt it.
I doubt it. Moving into a new genre, the sci-fi genre, which we're discussing, kind of a controversial movie, so I'll be interested to hear your take. And I know that you are a Star Wars fan. The Phantom Menace,
It's not sci-fi,
1999.
It's not.
What is it?
Fantasy. Space
Sci-fi
fantasy.
fantasy. It's like epic fantasy, epic sci-fi, whatever. You guys are fucking nerds.
Agree to disagree.
Jesus Christ.
Definitely not. No.
No, it's a naughty.
It's a naughty. I mean, somehow George Lucas was able to pull out a terrible performance out of an amazing actress like Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
And that's awful.
He had a great
That's
cast.
on him.
Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, the cast is the only person in that movie that is all in is Ewan McGregor, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
But everything else is just it's a mess. I mean, it's about trade routes and like it's.
Have you seen Trainspotting?
Yeah, that's what Ewan McGregor's
Okay.
capable of, honestly. There is a growing movement of people who like are reconsidering the original trilogy. Like, were they good or were they
Especially
not
in
good?
especially in the context of the sequel
newer
trilogy.
ones. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's a lot better in the sense that it did more world building and original storytelling.
Yeah, but fuck those people. It got a naughty.
I mean, we can have a conversation about Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith because I think there are really good things in those. But I mean, when Jake Lloyd, God love him, is driving the narrative, the dramatic arc of your movie, it's not a good thing.
What is it like? This is pod racing, like whatever the hell it was. Like, yeah, it was. And then Jar Jar Binks.
That was also
obviously.
the introduction
Yeah.
of Jar Jar.
Okay,
Binks.
but do you guys know about Dark Jar Jar? That fan theory?
Yeah, everybody knows
Yeah.
that.
Okay, good. Because if they had gone that
We don't
route,
need
it
to
could
go
have been
into
the
that.
best trilogy in the entire world.
The best part of interrupting John is to talk about this Mawan Cathedral Kolsch.
Let's
that
talk
just
about it.
opened here.
Oh yeah. So we're releasing this. Well, actually, by the time you are hearing this, it will already be out. So our new sort of spring. I mean, it's not new to us. We've brewed it once before, but it's a German style Kolsch. This is a style that we sort of avoided for a few years because Schlafly makes
Oh yeah.
such an amazing one that we just didn't. We tried very hard early on to not just be the guys from Schlafly opened a new brewery. So we felt that 5 years was enough time.
It's delightful. It's everything I want in a Kolsch. It's
Yeah.
clean, it's bright, it's drinkable, but it's got a little bit of that bready quality left over in it.
Yeah, it's all about that yeast. You know,
Mhm.
it's just it's give it a simple grain bill and let the yeast really be the star of the show.
Think we're gonna get a mile wide Kolsch night anytime soon?
Maybe.
We could try.
Maybe.
Maybe.
All right, we'll blast through the last few here. Scotty or Naughty? That's a good movie. Pan's Labyrinth, 2006.
Yeah, we'll give it a Scotty.
I thought that's a what's his name, right?
Guillermo del
Giro. I thought that was a fun movie. I
Yeah.
think I saw that on weed, and it was great.
On weed.
Yeah. But that's another good movie. It's a
I was on weed that night.
why can't I remember the name of that movie with Dave Chappelle and Jim Brewer?
Oh,
The marijuana movie. Half baked. There you go. Anyway,
You're in here for weed, man.
Yeah, exactly. You ever done it on weed? Released in 2013, a movie I'm not familiar with. We're the Millers.
Definitely a Scotty.
Is that a
For
Judd
sure.
Apatow thing?
Good.
No, it's a Jason Sudeikis and
Oh.
Jennifer Aniston.
Okay, I like them.
It's about these 4 people who are, I don't even remember how they come together, but they're all sort of like criminal-ish, and they come together and pass themselves off as a family for some reason, which I can't remember, but it's very fun and
Still
it's
gets a Scotty.
ridiculous. And yep,
Hell
gets
yeah.
one.
So I think you're also a. Oh,
It
Jason
is Ted
Sudeikis
Lasso.
is having a moment right now,
Yeah.
guys. Like, I have not watched Ted Lasso, but I've seen enough YouTube clips to know that I love it.
What are we even doing here?
Yeah. Cancel the rest of this podcast.
I know you're a
I
fan
stopped the mid episode to come and do this of the new episode.
of. Is season 2 the last season they're doing of that, or are they going to
No,
do
they're,
more?
they're on season 3 right now.
Oh, okay. I heard somebody
Yeah.
saying like they're
This is-
refusing to watch it because they want to save it for like when they're like having a depressive time, and they're just going to be able to watch Ted Lasso.
You can rewatch it though, right?
Yeah.
Well, but it's like that, it's always, it's never as good as the first batch of Tessie. Like you always get, the second time you watch it, is it going to have the same hot profile?
Don't
Yeah, fair
push
enough.
your uncultured agenda.
I'm just saying, all they were saying is they loved it so much that they wanted to like save it. Anyway, fan of superhero movies, it's fair to say, the Marvel franchise.
The first half, yes.
Okay. So this will be an interesting take from you. Thor
Two.
2, which I think is like
Oh,
subtitled
No, the Dark World.
Dark World. Yeah.
That's a naughty.
It's a naughty.
Unfortunately, Thor is batting 500,
Yeah.
and Ragnarok is maybe the best movie.
That was the one after that, right?
Yeah.
The first one that was like
It's the-
comedy-ish.
It's the third one.
Sorry, you're
yeah.
not a fan of Love and Thunder?
No,
Yeah, it was.
I didn't
I
see
didn't. I don't know what happened. I don't know, but it was.
I think
Yeah.
Taika Waititi kind of got like a little bit ahead of himself in certain ways, it seemed like, from my understanding of
Yeah, I can see
Like,
that.
his ego might have gotten a little too
I mean,
involved.
The praise was, through
Yeah,
the roof
yeah,
for,
exactly.
for Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So, but
Let's also talk about Thor Ragnarok, Kate Blanchett and her like thing.
Mhm.
But
That does things to me.
The thing with Marvel Studios, there's so many producers that I specifically noticed about Love and Thunder is that they were trying to produce something that wasn't a horror, wasn't drama, wasn't like
Mhm.
action. So they introduced comedy, and I think it kind of flopped a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, they did
Yeah.
the same thing with like Ragnarok, though, kind of.
I feel like that was an innovative
I mean,
take.
Ragnarok was hilarious.
Yeah, and I feel like that changed the whole like mood of those Marvel movies a little bit. But then it kind of got like over its own spokes or
Guardians
whatever.
was, I think, the first person to do that.
Yeah, going back to Robert
Yeah.
De Niro in comedy, our next nominee, Dirty Grandpa from 2016.
That's gonna get a Scotty.
It's a Scotty.
Aubrey Plaza's in that. and
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
hilarious.
She's kind of hilarious in everything that
she
she
really
does.
is.
And our final one, moving into the horror genre.
How did we pick these?
Oh,
movies?
very, very
Just-
randomly.
okay.
Just me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if you're a fan of the horror genre, but what
It's my favorite.
we
genre.
thought so. Halloween, 1978.
Oh, I'm the biggest of Scotties.
Yeah, that's a big Scotty.
that's-
They might get the Golden Scotty.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
That's kind of genre defining too. It's like that was one of the first like modern horror movies.
yeah. It was. I don't want to say it's the first slasher, but it was the first one to really popularize that style of horror film. And
Yeah.
it's still so amazing, and it's not that bloody, and it's not. A lot of the kills happen off screen, and it's amazing. It's all just built through tension.
Yeah,
it's-
exactly.
It's phenomenal, and Jamie Lee Curtis just won an Oscar, and I'm glad she did, because if nothing else, she's Laurie Strode, and she will always be Laurie Strode.
Yeah,
So,
she's fucking great.
That's the original Scream
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
yeah.
and the original Little Black Dress, I think.
What do they call that? Like the Survivor Girl or
Final Girl.
Final Girl. That's right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was kind of one of the first movies like that definitely became a genre.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to pick the Golden Scotty. Unless you have any other contendants or nominees you'd like to introduce,
Well, no, because I don't.
because then you'd be biased because it'd be your
Yeah,
favorite.
Just choose from this list.
All right, so drum roll, please. We've got Meet the Parents, Knives Out, Troll 2, Pan's Labyrinth, We're the Millers, Dirty Grandpa, and Halloween.
Oh man.
I mean, how do you compare those?
Meet the
you know?
Parents, Knives Out, Troll 2, Pan's Labyrinth, We're the Millers.
Look, it's
Dirty
Troll
Grandpa.
2. It's Troll 2.
Troll 2.
Everybody needs to go watch Troll 2.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Don't watch it by yourself.
Okay.
Watch it with a group of people.
On weed.
And then when you're done with that, watch The Room.
Okay. The Room.
Yes, The Room is the other best terrible movie.
I almost did that one.
Yes. Oh, well,
Almost.
that would have won the Golden
Okay,
Scotty
all right.
for sure. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. Like, I'm a big fan of bad movies that are good. It's rare though that when they are so bad that they're good, but when they are, it's oh my god, that's spectacular.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Scott, for
Of
your
course,
opinions.
thanks. That's
and,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's fun.
that was fun.
Fun to break those things down sometimes. If you disagree with any of these, go fuck yourself, or leave a comment below and let us know. You know, talk about a little bit of national beer news.
Yeah, so we do want to talk about the Brewers Association. The movies thing threw me off. But we do want to talk about the Brewers Association. They just launched their 2022 top 50 U.S. craft brewing companies for the United States.
By volume, right?
By volume. I can almost guarantee that all of us know the first two. Scott, you want to chime in?
Sam Adams.
Yes.
Which is kind of how
New
they like
Belgium.
define it.
very close. Yingling.
Oh yeah. I always, a few years ago they changed the criteria for it, and I keep forgetting that Yingling is now
Yeah.
considered craft.
Which is it? What is craft beer anyway these days? That's to me, that's like what the most interesting thing about all this is.
Well, craft is now like this definition is more about ownership.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not owned by somebody with, well, I mean, a lot of these people probably have boards of directors, but they're still, well, but I mean, then even you argue like New
Know what?
Belgium,
Actually, New Belgium is.
or they're on there, and they moved way up this year from all of their mergers and acquisitions and whatnot. I know they're on here somewhere, but I don't know. What does craft beer mean to you, and how do we define it against beer
are they
in
on
general? I know that. I
don't
think I
think
saw
so.
him.
I don't see them on.
I don't think they are because they got bought by
Kieran.
Kieran owned like a big stake
So
in
then
it.
Little
Bells
Lion or whatever.
Bells would not be.
Bells
on
is
there.
also not present.
Now, see, I thought they were, but this is what we do for you, ladies and gentlemen. Regardless of that, do you think that it's so? I guess the argument is like, let's just talk about like the top three. None of us would consider Budweiser or Miller Coors or who's the other one that you might mention? Those aren't craft beer companies. They own some companies that are involved in craft beer, but we wouldn't call them craft beer breweries because that's not their business. Their business is like owning brands and.
They're not in this list for a reason.
Right. Well, so that's what I'm saying. So Yingling to me is kind of like, what? It's just a brewery, right?
Yeah. I think. I mean, again, this all has to do with the definition of craft, and that was something that was heavily debated, especially in like the early 2010s about what are we going to call it, because you had breweries like Sam Adams that kept growing, and they started growing out of the
Barrelage.
out of the barrelage to be called a craft brewery, so they kept amending it, and then it was like you can't brew a beer with adjuncts, and that's why Yingling wasn't in there, and then they changed that.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's the top U.S. brewing companies, like
I do wonder because
asterisk, not AB InBev or
Yeah.
The interesting part is that so many of
I guess
these,
maybe American owned.
that might be a criteria.
Yeah.
American craft beer.
the interesting part to me is that so many of these only exist in a regional perspective, maybe distributed nationally, but I mean,
Or maybe not. Looking at you, New Glarus, number 12.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
always
New
insane.
Glarus being number 12 and having a staunch model of only distributing within the state of Wisconsin, that's a major thing to pull off. Revolution Brewing at 39.
Mhm.
you know, they don't have a massive footprint outside of the central Midwest, to my knowledge. Marty, I'm sure we can talk about this later. St. Arnold Brewing out of Houston, Texas.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about big breweries that have been around for a long time that are based in major metropolitan areas.
Mhm.
I mean, Revolution was one of the first in Chicago. Like I remember there was a time you went to Chicago and there were no local breweries, and that was one of the first. And they just, and it's West 6th. West 6th in Kentucky is West 6th in Kentucky because they were the first.
Yeah, I agree.
They grew faster than Country Boy, and they got into Louisville before anybody else. And
Yeah. But for them to be able to still impact this list,
It's
No,
incredible.
sure.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And
And
it just-
Rheingeist is on here too.
Yeah.
Number 23.
It's just always interesting to see this list kind of change a little bit every year, but at the same time, maybe not change that much either. I mean, the top 10 are usually pretty much the same. Athletic moved up to
Giant standout.
number 13, 14.
Yep.
Yeah, Athletic Brewing has an NA craft brewery.
Well, and then you see things like Harpoon.
I know,
like,
and it's like, when's the last time you thought
anybody
of Harpoon? Like, that's
just
going back to like
I
that
just-
2004 era where you like could find a 6-pack at Mid City Mall or something,
Yes.
but it's like,
I just watched a movie that was based in Massachusetts, and there was Harpoon in like a gas station. I was like, oh, Harpoon.
yeah,
But that's the last time I thought of it.
it's like
What
Red Hook or something, or Red Hook or whatever that company was.
What
Yeah.
if their business model is just to produce and be on this list, but not actually sell any of it?
Well, hey, that was one of the points I was going to make, just because this is based on volume. This is not necessarily based on profitability or how many people you hire or demand. Yeah, there's a lot of other like criteria besides amount of beer produced that measure to me what makes a great company. So
Yeah,
it's good. It's fun to review this, but
Well, then there's also things like Duvel Mortgott, which is number 4, but it's actually 3 breweries. It's Firestone Walker, Boulevard, and Ommegang.
yeah,
Same
which
with,
to me,
same with Kinarchy.
Yeah,
that's true. Yep, 100%. And I don't think Brewdog's on here this year, which is the only
They
other
are.
thing I noted. They are.
Yeah, they're down at 38.
Oh, there they are. Yeah, never mind. I take it back.
Well, I mean, I'll give it another 3 years before Mile Wide makes this list.
Hell yeah. Hell
We
yeah.
were like 51 or 2, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. Right off.
They were going to give you 50, but you're just like, next time.
Yeah.
Next
You know what? The
Let
BA
Yinling get some love this year.
The BA gets no Scotties.
Let Made
Okay.
by the Water from New Orleans and
Exactly.
4 other places get it. That's fine.
Mile Wide, named after a river, made by the water.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Maybe that is us in disguise. You never know.
doing business as Mile Wide
Yeah.
Beer Co. You sneaky bastard.
So we talked about beer news. We've talked a little bit about sci-fi movies. Moving into Louisville beer news, do you want to talk about a cool coming together of those two things happening at Mile Wide?
We already established it's not sci-fi.
It's epic fantasy. Space
opera.
opera. There you go. I'm happy with the term space opera. I'll allow that.
Yeah. So back in 2019, we brewed a collaboration with our buddies down at Heaven and Ale in Chattanooga. Rest in peace. Heaven and Ale is no longer open. But the beer is called Force Ghost. And we brewed it down there, and we only got a couple kegs up here. But the next year we were going to brew it here and can it and brew a much bigger batch. And it released in late March of 2020. So everybody knows what happened then.
Yep.
I remember personally, we were delivering beer at that time, and I remember loading our really shitty Mile Wide car with 50 plus cases of beer and driving around for literally 12 hours that day delivering beer.
Don't disrespect the Matrix.
So it's sort of kind of launched it with us, and it's been one of our most popular beers going forward since then. So it's a Northeast IPA, heavily oated with flaked oats and malted oats, and then dry hopped intensely with Galaxy and Citra.
Hell yeah.
So Galaxy being the Star Wars connection, and that's where all of our Star Wars beers that we do have Galaxy in them. So we have Mando and we have Boba and things like that. So anyway, so we've released this beer around May the 4th, but usually like a month or so before, and we've just never, like, for whatever reason, gotten the timing right. And this year we release our beers on Thursdays, and May the 4th is a Thursday. So this year we're like, all right, we're doing it. Force Ghost is releasing on May the 4th, Star Wars Day. And we're going to make a whole thing of it. So we usually do trivia on Thursdays. Usually it's Family Feud style trivia, but this time we're doing a Star Wars trivia. And you can actually, one of the prizes is you can win tickets to the Kentucky Guild of Brewers Craft Bash in June. And then we're going to have blue milk slushies. And then we're going to have the movies playing all day and all sorts of fun stuff.
I'm there.
So
Yeah, that sounds like a freaking blast.
that.
it's
I'm
going to
gonna
be,
be there.
it's going to be awesome.
At the bar, streaming ET to my phone, sobbing relentlessly.
We're just going to slip that in, but just like the last 20 minutes to make sure everybody's bawling their eyes out.
It's like, I didn't think that's how this movie ends. It's just a bicycle over the moon.
Well, I mean, but you do have the connection. You have E.T.'s race is actually in the prequel trilogy in the Galactic Sentinel.
That is true.
And you have a Yoda doll in E.T.
That is,
Dude,
Is this
and he's
real?
playing with Grand Moff Tarkin, and there's a lot of,
it's proof that we live in a simulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're
or
both,
they're all directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, exactly. That's-
in part, or George Lucas, whatever.
These are facts. I
Yep.
did not know this.
Yes, absolutely.
One more mile wide beer that we'll shout out, talking about your all seasonal releases. You also brought us a little bit of the Kentucky Lily version of your all's Quiet Science. This will come out in the season of the Kentucky Derby rolling into town. You just want to tell us a little bit about this beer? It's just a super fun thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, by the time you hear this, it will also be out. It is brewed in the style of the Kentucky Lily drink that is the official drink of the Kentucky Oaks. So, we wanted to do a Derby themed beer, but Derby pie beer didn't quite fit the season for us. Mint julep beers just
never
didn't
really work.
sound really good at all. And so then, we were sort of looking at it, and like the Kentucky Lily it's basically a cosmopolitan or very similar. And so, it's mostly cranberry with some tangerine and then just a hint of lemon at the end. And it's an incredibly unique beer, and I really love it. I think it tastes a lot like pink lemonade.
Yeah, I just actually realized I poured this into a glass. And for the people watching on YouTube, my favorite thing about it is how pretty this beer is too. Like it's got that beautiful cranberry, like kind of floral hibiscus-y vibe to it. So a super, super fun option. And I appreciate the creativity around Derby too, because it's super easy to fall into the tropes of like bourbon mint julep or like Derby pie. But there's so much more to like spring Kentucky than just the things that are kind of already associated with Derby. And Louisville beer is a big part of that, in my opinion. Kentucky beer in general.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that, like we sell this, we sponsor Sherby, which is a block party on Sherwood Avenue on Oaks Night. And we make a beer for Sherby, and we have a couple other beers, but we always have the Lily, and it's always the first thing to sell out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Big fan of anything that's like cocktail inspired. It really blurs lines, which to a lot of people is not purist, but it does introduce new crowd and new people to, oh, that's beer. I thought that was something else. So
Sure.
I kind of always appreciate that.
Well, I think that, this one, like we add the fruit during fermentation. So we're fermenting out a lot of those sugars. So we're not leaving the big slushy.
It's not sweet. It's really like dry and crisp, and that lets the kind of tartness of the cranberry come forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always describe our sours not really as sour. They're more tart than they are sour. And that, to me, enhances their drinkability more than anything.
Gets you in the mind of those like the old school Gozos or Berliners, like more than it does the kind of modern like 450 North like slushy abominations or whatever. You guys can make some good slushy beers too, but this is like something that I really, really like.
I mean, the base beer itself is an Americanized version, mainly from the ABV of a Berliner Weiss.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of that too, like those little syrup treatments that those things can get or whatever.
Well, the very first batch of Quiet Science we ever did was plain, and then we did the syrups at the bar.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was a neat thing, because you could get that base beer and then a flight and then dose it. What was Woodruff, blueberry?
We never did. We might have had Woodruff. We changed them all the time. That was part of the fun. Is we would we would run out of a bottle and we would replace it with something completely different.
That's
and
awesome.
so you could always find different things, and people would mix different flavors, and then people started adding those to other beers, and we were like, this is too far.
but you took that feedback and you went to once you all had established a very successful mile-wide member club. You kind of listened to the crowd a little bit and would like tease out these like, hey, if you were to pick the sour for our anniversary, what would your adjuncts be?
Yeah, it's for the oh God, what's that? Our 5th anniversary. We did that. We did like a Google Doc where here's a list of everything, like adjuncts and stuff like ABV range and things like that, and you tell us what you want. And it's funny that like if you were to just say, hey, what do you think everybody would want in a sour? I'd be like, well, they're probably going to want raspberry, blackberry. They're probably going to want like 7%, and that maybe some vanilla. And that's exactly what they did. And with the IPA, it's like, what do you think they would want? Probably like a double Northeast IPA with Galaxy and Citra. It's exactly what they wanted.
God damn it, it's expensive.
Hey man, fan service is a good thing sometimes.
Yeah,
Give the people
I'm
what they
fine
want.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
And as
once
much
in
as
a-
you guys, do all these like stuff out in the community and whatnot, one of the cool things I've always thought about your all's business is that you also have that like great group of like mile-wide people who come and hang out there with their friends every night, bring their families. Like it's such a great congregating space, and we talk a lot about like the third space on this podcast. It's a great place to go if you're not at work or not at home. and you guys do a really good job curating that. That's
Thank you.
with good beer, so that helps too.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, it's funny. Like every once in a while, I will, it's tough to get, or it's easy to get sort of jaded and like into your own head about the business that you're running. But every once in a while, I'm able to get outside of my head and actually like appreciate what's happening. And it's funny to look back at the tap room when we first opened it, and it was a pretty blank slate. And now 6.5 years in, like the tap room has character. Whether it's the stickers that are hanging behind the bar or just these little things that we've done here and there, like it actually has personality now, and it's really cool to see. And whether it's our anniversary and or just a silent disco, and we have a tap room full of people, like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's easy to sort of overlook that stuff, but you really,
That's what it's all about.
that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing remains in that it is still the debutante casino room of craft breweries in Louisville.
Elaborate.
You've never heard anyone refer to it as a casino room?
Like all the pinball machines and stuff.
No clocks, no windows.
Oh no, I've never.
It's like
I've
the
never
Las
asked-
Vegas, like 4 a.m.
You go into my wine when it's bright. You come out when it's dark.
I love that.
That makes sense. Well, it's one of the reasons that like it's funny because our sort of busy time of the year is inverted from everybody else. Like we have an outdoor space and people enjoy the outdoor space, but in the winter when everybody else is dead, like people come because it's cozy. Even though it's this big warehouse space, like because there's no windows, it's this kind of cozy space that you can
100%.
you can be in, and it's so our busiest months tend to be other people's slowest months.
Yeah.
Good problem to have. I know you've already kind of plugged a couple things coming up with beer releases and whatnot. Is there anything else that you want people to know about?
I am very excited about Hops on the Hill this year. It's a little ways down the road, but it's we've got 4 months worth of calendars in our office that we sort of plan out production and things. And here in a couple days, August is going to pop up on it. So it's going to be Hops on the Hill will officially be on the wall. So the first Saturday in August, Hops on the Hill is our IPA festival. In the past, we've done multiple breweries. We brew one collaboration. We released that day. Last year was the first year we did 3 different breweries, 3 different collaborations, all released that day. That was the biggest day in the history of Mile Wide.
Yeah, it was great.
Like bar none.
And you also have that great parking lot to do shit in. It's a fun playground.
Yeah. So we're taking that this year and sort of trying to amp it up a little bit more.
Hell yeah.
So we've got the 3 breweries set. We're very excited. None of them have ever distributed to Kentucky before. It's going to be awesome. And so the first Saturday in August 5th.
And we'll be sure to remind all the listeners about that as it gets closer.
I'm excited for that.
Me too.
John, what do you got?
Oh, man. I'm just going to honestly plug sunlight. This is the time of the year where...
fucking took mine.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll plug something different. I'm going to plug bonfires. As you guys know, I had a tree come down like during the windstorms we had a few months ago, and I've been slowly but surely disposing of some of the evidence that yard waste wouldn't take. And it's really nice to sit out at the end of a long day, kind of like you were saying, just to kind of not think about anything, but just kind of appreciate all of the great things that you have in your life. And a bonfire, to me, leave your phone inside. Like, you don't need to be doom scrolling. Maybe listen to a podcast or music or something, but just sitting down with a good beer and just like burning some wood. So fire's cool. Yeah.
David, what do you got?
Yeah, David, what do you have?
Yo, vitamin D is good for you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take your fire or sunlight because it's like the sun is one big fire.
That's
really,
true.
when you think about it.
You're right.
But
Fucking soccer team.
Even when you don't think about it, it really is.
should be hot.
It's so true.
I will plug the resurgence of American country music.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of your pop country ways. Listen to cowboy music. They've got good voices, good tones, and a lot of good vibes. So type in cowboy music on Spotify. See if you surprise yourself.
Sound like Taylor Swift?
So just cowboy music. No, Taylor Swift hasn't been country in a long time. Cowboy music on Spotify. Okay.
Hell yeah.
No, it's like Florida Georgia Line, that kind of stuff.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down.
I hope not. Oh God.
I'm angry.
On my end, Seventh Heaven TikTok. If you're not familiar with the show Seventh Heaven,
Yes.
it was a 90s.
yes.
It was a 90s awful like Christian drama that was so over the top, and like they tried to like force life lessons on you. And there's like a group of folks on TikTok that are going back to review the absurdities of the episodes and like teaching you like these life moments that they were trying to instill in like, the youth at the time. So just real quick for an example, they were just like, yeah, he got in trouble because he was drinking too much coffee. And then there was like,
I watched this growing up.
Yeah, that explains so much, honestly.
yeah, and like the dad's a pastor and he's really harsh, and like there's an aunt that comes in who's
a
an
young
alcoholic.
Jessica Biel, I think, was on that show.
Yeah.
And they like locked her in a room to take her away from the alcohol. And it was a whole just mess of a show, and the people that are reviewing it are doing God's work because I don't have to go back and watch it myself now.
Like, did you have to before?
I mean, I was thinking about it.
Okay.
So
I saw one that a friend of Jessica Biel was in a gang.
Fuck you.
And there was some serious talking tos happening. Yeah.
Are you in a gang? Oh wait, is that when they uncover like the mattress of like?
Yes.
And there's like a knuckle, like
Like
knuckles,
Brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Simpler time, 2004.
Yeah, so give Seventh Heaven a watch. Or at least
Watching Seventh Heaven,
TikTok.
eating at freaking Pizza Hut, watching E.T.
It's fantastic.
I'm going to plug, since we're plugging TikTok things, rug cleaning TikTok.
Oh, yeah,
it's
dude.
the best.
Oh, my
Satisfying.
God.
There's like 4 of them that I follow. And so like every other video on my following page is a rug being washed. And how do these people let their rugs get so dirty?
I don't
That's the
know.
other question.
I want someone to do that to my soul. I think that's like what that's what the appeal is. Like, I just want somebody to do that to my soul.
All right, cool. Anyway, so Scott, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks
It's
for
always
having
great
me.
to learn more about
Yeah,
Mudwad.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys.